Hello everybody, my name is Luke Marr and this is Harlem Mode, and today we're coming to you with our Spring-Summer 2022 New York Fashion Week review video. Now this is going to be discombobulated again because, traveling in the middle of Paris Fashion Week. It's an experience. But without further ado, let's just get into these reviews. So we're going to be starting with Saint Sintra. This was Sintra Martin's debut show under her own label, Saint Sintra, which was a pleasant surprise. And it's not that I was expecting something bad. I wasn't. But it surpassed my expectations, which is a really good thing, in my opinion. You might have seen the brand on Kim Petras or in Olivia Rodrigo's Brutal music video, but it's not a performance wear brand like I initially suspected. No, this first showing proved that Martin's has a real substance to her work. A black skirt suit opened the show with a gold-buttoned double-breasted jacket and visible black tulle underskirt that turned what could have been a rather serious inaugural look into a playful and kind of cheeky moment. The same look also arrived in a light cream with overarching wisps of blush pinks. The lighter version also afforded us the opportunity to see the short but sweet skirt pleats. Now, sheer tops and skirts were bedazzled with little sparkle motifs, not dissimilar to ones you'd find in your emoji keyboards, while ribbons were sloppily braided into fishnet tops and vibrant plumes of feathers which created a rainbow effect. Now, these weren't major, but they could be expanded upon in the future. Overall, Saint Sintra has a knack for tailoring while making it kitschy and kawaii, and I kind of can't wait to see what's next. Then there was Collina Strada. Now, Collina Strada by Hilary Taymor was a bohemian wonderland this season, and while many might see it as unwearable, myself being one of them until actually seeing the clothes in real life being wearable, this collection proves them and me wrong. Now, the show opened with a sheer star-printed top layered over an asymmetrical cocktail dress that had hand-painted floral motifs. While it wasn't the strongest way to start the collection, it proved Taymor's strong suit is layering, but a double look of orange and blue filled with texture, lace, ruffles, asymmetry, prints, and silks showcase the intriguing way Collina Strada transfixes its customers. There is so much happening on the runway, but when it's stripped down in a commercial setting, it feels far more digestible. A lace gown with padded hip inserts is a rather lovely way to create shape and opulence for a brand whose show notes talked about sleeping with skaters and then wearing their cargo pants after. A tennis skirt, pant, and dress bodice in vibrant colored plaids feels like a radical take on the 2000s trend that has popped up thanks to social media platforms like TikTok. But instead of low-rise pants or juicy couture tracksuits, Taymor brilliantly reimagines the colorful check shorts that young people would wear into something not shame-worthy, but rather desirable. Taymor also worked with Levi's, the famed denim company, for the collection showcasing star-printed and bedazzled jeans that were strong. Taymor's ability to print on lace with trippy swirls of colors also is rather fascinating, as it takes the textile commonly associated with either weddings or death and gives it a far funner and less heavy feeling. It can be seen in bodysuit styles as well as dresses, one on a child model, and while I never talk about child models because, children. The use of color is just so well done, I think it has to be recognized. Now, the 3D paper mache animal harnesses feel a bit gimmicky, and when compared to the swinging frog that holds onto the bust of one dress, which is made out of textured fabric, it feels even less necessary. A full lace bodysuit dress has padded hips as well, as it gives a Brooklyn spin to a Versailles classic, while a green version with cutaway skirt shows that Collina Strada is smartly playing on the silhouette without making it feel too dated, or like it should be in, a museum. The final looks will discuss smartly utilized trains in non-traditional ways. Both a tie-on train at the waist in orange and asymmetrical cape in neon green were trimmed in lace, and showcase the trend of drama without the need for an elegant gown. Now, Taymor makes the case for dramatic entrances being attached to baggy shorts or paired with sneakers, and we will see in the upcoming months if the trend catches on with the celebrity set. Billie Eilish in this experience is not going to be shocking to me whatsoever. While Collina Strada might not be everybody's cup of locally grown, non-GMO farmers co-op green tea, it certainly has a well-rounded sense of self, and no one can deny that. Now, Peter Do was undoubtedly the New York Fashion Week show everybody wanted to be at. I know this because I heard all week the grumblings about the limited capacity for attendees, something which most brands have had in the wake of the first true fashion month back in the era of COVID. Now, Do has become one of the global designers to watch, not only for the brand's clothing, which clients flock to due to their sleek look, nor just the multifaceted aspect of their design process, or because celebrities like Zendaya, Anya Taylor-Joy, Joy and Bretman Rock are already donning its smart tailoring. No, this season he and his team took his quiet tailoring and pushed it even further into a diaphanous direction, as well as added bits and bobs of clean deconstruction. This season also happened to speak to Do's Vietnamese origins, as he moved with his family from Ho Chi Minh City to Philadelphia at the age of 14. Now, spring 2021 tapped into his own personal style when he first arrived in the States, but this season dug deeper into traditional Vietnamese dress and costume. A white long coat with matching pants opened the show and featured small brown stitches similar to a toile, or rough draft fabric many brands use as to not waste premium textiles. And considering the Peter Do team dons white jackets like the petite man of the Parisian haute couture ateliers, the reference was apparent. While the collection felt rather heavy for spring, aka lots of coats layered over knits as well as suiting, the use of pastels and cottons to wick away moisture was where attention to the temperature was paid. Peter is also very much about utility, so when white shirts emerged and were half draped on the body, his multi-use design trope became evident. Instead of having just floral button-downs, strings were attached to the plackets, which allows the wearer the ability to drape their shirt however they like, or alleviate heat when layering becomes too much. It might seem silly to some, but multifacetation is truly a Peter Do notion, and yes, I just made up the word multifacetation, but it works. Big bags were also in effect. One brown faux crocodile style is reminiscent of bags and aprons from spring 2021. Floor-length button-downs were pleated below the waist, creating a light and deconstructed way to do evening wear, and a very dark brown crocodile suit seemed to be a take on a textile that Do enjoys, while thick t-shirts seem normal from the front but have a large cutout showcasing a bare back. Also, neither Haute Le Mode or Peter Do condone the act of unsafe sex, children, so always wear a condom. Now, this bare backing, if you will, is a style Do has accentuated in tailored suits and knits, especially in his breakout fall 2019 collection. So seeing it in a more casual style like a t-shirt might be an enticing way for customers who can't afford the high-end tailoring or luxury sweaters to get into the brand. We should also discuss a new silhouette for Do, which came in black, white, and pink and was based on a Vietnamese áo dai. Now, in the early 1700s, Lord Nguyen Phuc Rot required his female courtiers to wear a long dress over pants, and I believe it was to distinguish the North and South Vietnamese dressing. And since then, the long split dress over loose trousers has become a go-to for Vietnamese people of all walks of life. And it's a rather brilliant silhouette on its own, but paired with the opaque and sheer features, it's a smart ode to Peter's heritage that slots in with his usual silhouettes. Now, we also saw plus-size models in the Do carousel for the first time. A loose neon green shirt and flowing skirt disappointed, although a green silky trench coat was sweet. I'm happy to see plus-size representation on the runway, but I'd like to see the PD team really shoot for a beautifully tailored suit. I genuinely think everybody would win if that happened. Deconstructed jumpsuits had traditional suiting elements, and one with a bolero calls back to the chic Do halter vest and bolero take on a three-piece suit. The crystal drop section was short and was a good entry point for embellishments, which is new for the brand. Embroidery was also seen in floral motifs throughout the collection, and while I applaud the breaking ground in another new product genre, it was hard not to see the Inez and Venude for Valentino similarities. I'm not saying Valentino did embroidery, it's just similar. The new style of signature boots, whether they're covered in shimmering crystals or taking on straps to create sandals for heat, were smart. I also couldn't help but notice the plethora of Tiffany's jewelry on the model's arms. Is there a Peter Do and Tiffany's collaboration collection coming down the pipeline? I hope so. Overall, Peter Do was lovely this season. It's not trying to be a show-stopping, crazy event. Rather, it's a brand trying to make nice clothes with multiple ways to wear them. And I think that goal was most definitely achieved. Then we had Monse. Now, Monse showed Resort 2022 during New York Fashion Week, differing from many of the other brands, mainly showing spring offerings. But the collection was full of Monse classics, so it's hard to complain. It started with a normal trench style, whose back was filled with colorful crochet in black, red, green, yellow, all of the above, and was followed with crochet shirts and sweaters. Two of the standout looks were wool coats with thick cording that interlooped through grommets down the coats. Were they a bit reminiscent of Craig Green's own interlooped strings? Absolutely. But even if they were lifted from the British menswear star, which I don't condone, I would be lying if I said that they didn't look good. It's not right, but it looks okay, is the Whitney Houston phrasing I am adapting to fit the moment. Now, a product category I've heard that is doing really well for Monse is athleisure, hence the black halter crop top with Monse logo bands. And if that info is true, I'd be intrigued to see these sportier styles expanded upon in collections. I want to see Lululemon but make it pret-a-porter. A bright teal motorcycle jacket was sweet, but the knit dresses with keyhole cutouts or half-halter, half-draped necklines could have been jazzed up a bit, at least for the runway. Listen, I get it, simple for the buyers, that's lovely, do that in the showroom. On the catwalk, excitement. And that black dress with striped skirt and lace strips underneath was encroaching on Prada Fall 2020 a bit too much. Although the cold shoulder and halter silk scarf dresses were a sweet touch. Listen, I may not understand the prints, but I guess it's a print preference thing. Overall, Monse is just doing Monse. Easy but elevated, deconstructed styles for the everyday, and they make no qualms about it, so neither will I. Okay, different setup, update. Not in Paris anymore. Back, we're moving, we're grooving. Let's get into it and let's talk about Prabal Gurung. Prabal Gurung knows how to put on a fashion show, and we all know I'm not big on the entertainment and setting for fashion shows in general, but between the view of the New York harbor, beautiful white lanterns, and soothing live piano playing, I was a little bit taken. The collection was titled American Girl and spoke to the women and femmes that have been marginalized by America and how they have been forced by American society to be both the oppressed and saviors of our future. The collection opened with a bulky coat offset by warp printed florals over a red gingham dress with bubble skirt, and while they're sweet individually, it was hard to reconcile them paired together. A great example of that is a warp printed two-piece set and orange gingham skirt set that both felt perfectly at ease when isolated. And a lovely neon yellow gingham gown with the signature Prabal buttons and loops made for a smashing evening wear presence, as did the sister dresses in blue and black florals and serene white. Now, I'm unsure if the black warp florals were as strong, as it felt like the subtle flowers didn't pop as much. The bubble skirt dress was lovely on its lonesome, but when jackets and vests tried to adopt side bubble sections, it felt very odd and messy. And Prabal trying to adapt more casual shirt dresses and jerseys into his more formal silhouettes also felt like a miss. I will say the sarong-like skirts were sweet though, and Prabal proved his color abilities to be as spectacular as usual, with a pink evening dress with blue piping looking as if it was hand-dyed to outline the wearer's body. The silks were hit and miss as well. The lighter, more slip-style dresses couldn't seem to showcase anything dynamic about themselves, but the dresses in more structured silhouettes were lovely. It's a bit like if Balenciaga had been done in the 1980s with a twist. The bright filo plume feather dresses and gowns definitely had a Prabal Gurung color story, but didn't stand out from the crowd enough to really say anything. Overall, it was chock full of go-to Prabal styles and aesthetics, but should have been edited down as it felt like a bit too much all at once. Let's talk about Michael Kors. Now, the spring 2022 Michael Kors collection was titled Urban Romance and presented his own version of the phrase, which might not be everybody's interpretation, but it's certainly his. Kors's version of urban denotes the 17th century French definition, quote, in relating to or characteristic of a town or city. And in Michael Kors's world, Tavern on the Green, the swanky Central Park landmark restaurant, is as urban as it gets. And when the opening look of a black bra and high-waisted pencil skirt emerged, it wasn't untrue to Michael's customers' idea of urban romance too. The MK collection customer skews older and more refined and probably not super ready to go out in just their bra and skirt, but that's what seems to create the romance for Michael. The belt at the waist is unnecessary for obvious reasons, mostly that the skirt seems to fit beautifully. A leather bra and circle skirt again spoke to an idea of edginess through leather and bandeaus as tops, while the full skirt had a feeling of what a Michael Kors customer might associate with the good old days of dressing. A plunging neckline black fit and flare paired with a wide belt was a great way to showcase a belt, but the multi-wrap skinny version that followed was not. Capri pantsuits in black and white were simple but reminiscent of the cheekier styles Kors showed during his tenure at Celine, and I wish that man would bring back some Celine moments in these collections a little bit more often. Now, graphic turtlenecks with the logo for God's Love We Deliver, a New York-based charity helping those with health issues get the proper nutrition they need, were really nice. While the logo might be known to many associated with the charity, for those not in the know, it's just a simple yet effective graphic, and if there's money going towards the charity, let the people buy the logos. Sweet ginghams and perforated white foliage styles made multiple appearances, and a pink mohair sweater with exaggerated collar was fun. And there was a cacophony of lace, not in particularly exciting motifs or cuts, but rather dowdy whites, beiges, and blacks, which was rather disappointing. The perforated styles were given leather treatments, and black and white graphic florals emerged as well. Now, when the embroidery thundered through the collection in multiple ways, there was a real sparkle to it. And I say thundered because the sequins literally clapped so loudly it almost felt like there were little bursts of thunder, and I would have thought it was thunder had it not been so sunny. Recreating the floral motif found in the lace with tens of thousands of sequins is the elevation that sets Michael Kors' collection, the brand, above the other Michael Kors lines. And as I have said, there is a customer for this luxury line, and they spend huge gobs of money not looking at tags or prices. Now, while the sun beating down on you in the New York humidity isn't great, it did allow the paillette styles in brown, pink, tan, and black to really sparkle and shimmer in the loveliest way. Will I say that Michael Kors' collection is the height of fashion innovation? No. But it isn't really trying to be. Michael makes clothing that his very loyal customer base will be drawn to, and it works for him and his business. Nicely made clothing not looking for frills is exactly what Michael Kors is, and I can respect him for being himself and the brand doing what the brand does. It's not under the sea, so I'm okay. Next up, let's talk about Coach. Coach's Spring 2022 collection was a deep dive into the brand's heritage and history with a campy twist. A pink tweed shirt dress opened the collection by Stuart Vevers, piped in a brown leather placket, which instantly tied into the brand's leather history. More tweed styles followed in jacket and skirt forms with bras underneath, maybe an attempt to cut the rather vintage-feeling tweeds. With the leather trim on the jackets and skirt waistbands subtly bringing back the notion that Coach is a leather brand, even when leather is not the main focus. The Coach multi-C monogram emerged in denim, while the leather came in tank tops and harem pants. One leather pant was even paired with a black tank top depicting a photo of an unclothed naked man with text that read, "The Eagle." I also know that unclothed and naked are the same thing. The Eagle is a play on gay leather bars whose name derived from the meatpacking district's bar, Eagle NYC, which was formerly a pub but transitioned into a venue for more masculine presenting men after the 1969 Stonewall riots. But I think it's a fun way for Coach to not take itself too seriously. I also wonder if this is Stuart acknowledging his earlier fashion creations from when he was making his own clubbing outfits growing up in the UK. Fashion brands at the scale of Coach very rarely take risks like this, but when they do, they often pay off. Shaggy mohair skirts followed and raincoats with coin purse pockets emerged, which is a reference to one Bonnie Cashin, not only an American sportswear legend who cemented the category, but a former Coach designer. Bonnie has created a lasting legacy on fashion, and it's nice to see her recognized through little design techniques in this collection. Now, there were a lot of bags, but none of them the newest and hottest bag in the Coach stable, the Pillow Tabby. In the same way that Marc Jacobs constantly unleashed new takes on Louis Vuitton staples, I think Stuart should have done the same, considering he was mentored by Jacobs when Stuart worked for him at Vuitton. The trompe-l'oeil shirt dresses that masqueraded as belted coats were fun, but I think the t-shirts with faux colorful pockets and quote turnkey closures are a more commercially viable option. Overall, it was a different direction for Coach where it seemed it wasn't taking itself too seriously. There should definitely be more of a focus on accessories, as that would only further the fun direction Vevers seems to be moving towards. Thom Browne. Now, Thom Browne rewrote the narrative surrounding Grey Gardens for his Spring 2022 collection and approached both his signature corporate grays as well as bright, vibrant colors. The set was rather important to understanding the collection, at least in my mind, as an unkempt garden with models in gray floral capes sat around with two models inside a broken down wooden frame house. This is where I'm getting the whole idea of Grey Gardens, the Beals, Little Edie, Big Edie. One by one, they would undo their capes and then show an array of looks in gray. There were more androgynous takes on the three-piece suit, and many of the looks had asymmetrical sleeves with one long and the other short. A majority of the styles were in light gray wools, but a few looks in gray seersucker seemed like a smart way for Browne to showcase a stripe, but capturing a breathability needed for a spring collection. We also saw some models who had their asymmetrical sleeves taken one step further. On the other side of their uneven or non-existent sleeve, there was a sleeve that was sewn to the side of the garment restricting mobility. Could it have deeper ties to the idea of lockdowns restricting our movements or the lack of desire for some to get the COVID-19 vaccine? It was definitely something to ponder. Then, after all the models who had been statues longingly looked at the broken down house and walked off, a group of organza looks, which seemed like they had been made sheer at the front, emerged, but were more than likely just motifs. I will say that on the off chance they weren't just motifs, the model wearing the blue dress has a genital issue in my opinion, and while I'm not a medical professional, they should probably get that checked out. But besides the anatomical styles, there were lots of pieces that had trompe-l'oeil drapes down the front, while cape styles and two-piece skirt sets also emerged. Often Thom looks to the body for inspiration, although it often can be a bit more avant-garde. But here Thom spoke about how he wanted to focus more on details, and he definitely achieved that subtly. It should also not go unnoticed how much accessories help tell the story of the brand, so seeing Hector bags with Grecian drapes and in memoriam marble styles hit home the statuesque aesthetic of the entire collection. The final two looks were two gray dresses that had exaggerated waists and hips that were almost bustle-like, but when they shed their somber gray looks to showcase two white dresses that shimmered from afar, it seemed to somehow evoke the Beals, as I mentioned earlier, both Big Edie and Little Edie, alone on their Long Island estate surrounded by broken down gardens and homes. I don't know, that's just how I was thinking about it. When you zoom in on the embroidery, it shows a motif consisting of a suit with buttons, tie, shirts, lapels, and more. It's the perfect way for Thom to emphasize his corporate aesthetic, but in a much more opulent and embellished way. There is even shading done with embroidery to emphasize this trompe-l'oeil tailoring, which perfectly showcases the devil in the details direction of this collection. Thom Browne shows are always a performance, but this season, fashion in 3 acts kept the attention on deep tailoring, joyful colors, and the occasional embroidery, leading it to a smashing success. Now, let's do a little spotlight on the up-and-coming designers in New York to end out the video. First, Puppets and Puppets by Carly Mark had another kooky thrown-together styling session for an easier, ready-to-wear outing. Her knits are rather brilliant. One, a white cold-shoulder smock, which wouldn't do much for movement, but was luxe, while a two-piece gray and purple set recreated breasts as a motif in a rather perky way of grabbing attention. The sequined bodysuit and denim skirt with sheer underlay were unnecessary, though. And the crinoline dresses where the cage pushed against the skirt was a very New York way to look at the historical dressing tool. Whether the impression of the hoops was intentional or not, it helped to give a rawness to the lovely keyhole cutout gowns that felt somehow down to earth, even though they are ball gowns. Then we had Theophilio by Edvin Thompson, which was the brand's first outing titled Air Jamaica. Leather was a staple with sharper takes on vintage air stewardess uniforms in black, and then there were miniskirts filled with grommets. Floaty mesh and ruche styles had colors that bled together, which was lovely, but the silky cocktail dresses felt rather dull, even though they were meant to shine. Now, the most intriguing styles came in green, black, gold, and red, the same colors associated with Rastafarians, which was Thompson's intention. Now, while the colors were meant to be a way to showcase how different aspects of Jamaican culture have moved throughout the world, the pleating of the pieces was what really hammered home Thompson's talent, in my opinion. While the colors are straightforward, wavy pleating creates a intriguing texture and almost bleeds the colors together too. It's a rather brilliant technique that I hope we get to see more of in the future. Then there was Elena Velez, who was another hot and budding name that showed during the New York schedule. Her collection, dubbed Rinashita, looked at the relationship between bondage and shelter, as well as the duality of enclosure, which manifested through textile manipulation and metalwork. Grainy linens manifested in pants and deconstructed dresses, while ruching appeared in black skirts and empire waists, while a particular highlight was a plaster-covered jumpsuit. If you look at the rigid jumpsuit at areas like the torso or pants and compare it to the pushed-up sleeves, it's a physical showing of the dichotomy of being stuck in something that seems secure and being immobilized by that security at the same time, which I think is what Velez was trying to get at. The paint-covered denim shorts definitely plays to this idea of texture, but it could easily get to Margiela territory unless Velez makes it her own. I'm not saying that it is Margiela, but I'm saying it could get there, so we have to make sure that we don't let it get there. At every turn of this collection, Velez's vision of this duality of enclosures is seen. I mean, the shoes on some of these models were literally drilled around their feet, only continuing this whole idea. It was like kind of disturbing, but at the same time like kind of chic. And it feels like a brand that could actually stand among some of the strongest and most exciting names in New York, so I'm excited to see what comes from Elena Velez. Then there was the delightful Sandy Liang, most known for her quirky takes on fleece jackets. Her spring 2022 collection highlights her nouveau take on sportswear, starting off with crop tops and cutaway tank tops paired with pleated skirts, which were a mainstay, as they were also paired with pants or converted into dresses with a vest-like bodice. Asymmetry was also present in dresses that looked like they had been accidentally sewn on top of toiles and then ripped off, but only on one side. There were rumblings at the show that it might have been inspired by Marie Antoinette by Sofia Coppola, and the light cotton dresses with a double box pleat at the back only fueled that conspiracy theory, because that was a whole French court dress at the time of Miss M.A., so let the girls eat double box, please. Of course, light pink fleece jackets and vests were also a continuation of one of the brand's best sellers, which was sweet. Listen, it's moving along a hero product. I'll take it. Liang overall is an intriguing designer, as she easily mixes American sportswear tropes with light and delicate fabric as if they don't clash. And in her vision, honestly, they don't. To close this video out, New York Fashion Week was seen as a rather banal affair by many, but it seemed to be a reinvigoration of fashion in the city. Without the gimmicky fashion shows by big brands like Cheetos or Project Runway, there was a sense of seriousness about the collections that was rather necessary. Listen, it's a commercial city. That's what it is. That's for the most part what it always will be. So like, we have to accept her for where she is at, or him, or they, whoever. Now, this reinvigoration will hopefully continue for years to come, and hopefully it will grant New York a bit more social currency as a fashion capital. Andrew Bolton, the curator of the Costume Institute, said recently that a renaissance of American fashion is upon us. And while many probably aren't looking close enough to see it, a fresco of fashion is being painted slowly but surely. So that is the end of today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I will see you guys on the next Fashion Week video. I'm not sure they're going to go in order because I feel like I want to get Paris done, so understand that. But you'll see me soon. So, TTYL.